We can now go to Paul Sinclair, political aide to former UK Prime Minister Gordon Brown in number 10. Paul, brilliant to have you on the show, obviously speaking about Epstein a little bit earlier to your interview and links to Andrew. But let's focus a little bit in on Keir Starmer, because he's lost his two aides in just 24 hours. The Scottish Labour leader is calling for him to quit. The Prime Minister says he's not going to resign. But can he continue in the job?
He is in a very difficult position, and I won't deny that. But at the same time, I think Anna Sarwar, who's a dear friend of mine, who's the Scottish Labour leader, who's called for him to quit, was possibly misadvised in doing so, because there are a couple of problems here. One, it's very difficult to see who would replace who would replace Keir Starmer as the leader. And the other problem is that at the moment, what question is answered by replacing Starmer? And I don't think there is one. I don't think there is somebody else who's out there who could possibly do it. I think he has got enormous problems. I mean, what has happened with Peter Mandelson has been disgusting. I worked with Peter Mandelson. I know Peter Mandelson, but nobody knew the extent to which he would of his malfeasance. So therefore, I don't think if there was an easy answer in that basically let's just change the leader, I think we would do that. But I don't think there is an easy answer.
It's quite interesting, isn't it? There's no easy answer, but Andy Burnham couldn't run in the by-election. Maybe Keir Starmer stopped that because he knew something that we don't know. But Paul, my big question is, lots of people are coming out today. Yes, Anna Sarwar's come out. He says, you know, it's a hard decision for him. Starmer was a great friend, but things are just not going quite to plan, which is quite clear to see. We've also heard from Kemi Badenoch, the leader of the Conservative Party, talking about Labour in a psychodrama. But my big question to you is Starmer's right-hand man, who is, of course, Morgan McSweeney, just the scapegoat right now in the appointment of Peter Mandelson as the US ambassador. Because let's be honest, between you and me, the final decision would have been with the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, and this was a bad judgment from him. And he seems to not always make the right decision.
It was a bad judgment by him, but one of the things I would say, since we're just speaking privately between you and me, having been an advisor number 10 to more than one Prime Minister, one of the things I think has been disappointing in Britain in the last couple of years is we've had the rise of the super advisor. And the super advisor is, Dominic Cummings under Boris Johnson and Morgan McSweeney, who have done more to promote themselves than necessarily their cause. Now, the fact of the matter is, yes, of course, Peter Mandelson was a mistake. And I do believe it is correct that Morgan McSweeney has gone. But as somebody who is an advisor and was very proud to be an advisor, you have to get a team together that supports the principle. Now, you can question whether Keir Starmer is good enough to be Prime Minister. But I tell you what, he is good enough to be supported. And I don't think he's been supported well enough by the people who are prepared to take the shilling to do that job.
So I guess the argument is he hasn't been supported because he hasn't always made the right decisions. There's been so many U-turns since Keir Starmer entered number 10, and that's something that a lot of people are saying. It's clear there's been cracks in this party from the very beginning, 18 months in. Don't forget, we also had Sue Gray. Now we have Morgan McSweeney. So, he's not doing well when it comes to AIDS, let's put it that way. But another another question I wanted to put to you is, you mentioned this to me, Paul, that you actually knew Peter Mandelson. Of course, he was appointed US ambassador. At the time, he was a controversial appointment. But what kind of guy was he like to work for or to know?
He was a very bad appointment. Peter Mandelson is a man who falls in love with influence and money very easily, and that is what has been his downfall. At the same time, he has an intellect that is certainly worth having on board. But when you come to the point, and we talk about the thing that you touched about Keir Starmer not being very well served by the people. You're a wonderful presenter, if I may say so, but you're there because of a great number of wonderful people behind you in a production team. Now, the problem that Keir Starmer has is he doesn't have quite the right production team. And I think if he did have a better production team, he would appear to be a better Prime Minister.
I just want to say, you're absolutely right, Paul. I have the best production team. And if Keir Starmer had my production team, he might still be running the country. But that's not the story right now when it comes to him. But, Paul, my big question really to you is, what does Keir Starmer need to say to MPs tonight to make it clear he has a steady hand at the helm of a ship? Because from the outside, many people might say it feels like that is just not the case.
Here's what he needs to do. And I remember it when I worked for Gordon Brown, who I think was an absolutely brilliant Prime Minister in very difficult circumstances. And it is to stop playing the political game, to stop kind of looking at the odds and just do the right thing. I think what people need to know in the Labour Party and what people need to know in the country is they need to be reminded of what the Labour Party is about what its values are. And it is not actually about supporting a leader, come or go. It's about supporting the values. And that's what he needs to do. People don't like Keir Starmer. I don't think Keir Starmer will particularly ever be likeable. But we can like what he stands for if he explains it.
So Starmer's been in power for 18 months. We've seen a number of U-turns from his Labour government, and now we're seeing these resignations. Is the Prime Minister fatally wounded? And are they just bandaging him up to survive the next election and by-election that's set to come?
I have said this on more than one occasion, that there are a finite number of times in which Number 10 can reinvent itself. And I do think he might have run out of those times. But I have to say, and I go back to what is better next, we need to get back to, it needs to be not just a politics of personalities, it needs to be a politics of principle, it needs to be a politics of policy, of what we want to achieve. Now, if you are saying to me, do I think that Keir Starmer will lead the Labour Party into the next election? Hand on heart, no, I don't believe so. Do I believe he still has a part to serve? Yes, I do. And I think he can do it by setting out. I mean, he's got the most appalling job and the most wonderful job on earth, and that is to be the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. What he now needs to do is not work or in terms of how do I eke out more time, is how he spends the time. Because if he spends the time well, the time will extend.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the Gordon and Denton by-election that's upcoming at the end of this month. But I just want to move on to one final thought from you, if I can, Paul. What should Mandelson do now? What's his next step as all these revelations come out about him?
Prepare for jail.
OK. So Mandelson should prepare for jail, and do you think that as the more revelations come up from the Epstein files, that's where he's going to end up?
I suspect so. I think the one thing, Peter Mandelson has done many good things for the Labour Party, but the best thing he can do now is just us draw a line under him. I think what he's done, people are comparing it to tragedies of the past. He's basically on the same level in my mind to Kim Philby, although at least Kim Philby, the spy, believed in something. It's time that he moved on, and it's time that British politics moved on from Peter Mandelson.
Paul Sinclair, it's been brilliant to have you on. I've really enjoyed your analysis. Thank you for your time.